Can we just start like that?
Hey, the last episode, I just was going la 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 la, and then we were just started talking. You know,
Nice. Yeah. That's,
Yep. Because there's literally no intro to any of these.
there's no intro. We just start talking.
that's
We
all right.
just
I
start
like
talking.
it. It's raw.
Yeah, it's just raw. We just your different aspirations, careers, what avenues to go down for aviation was one of them was going to Alaska, wasn't it?
Originally, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do you want to say who's here?
it's Brian Hayes.
Brian
I
Hayes.
thought we just start usually. Here we got Brian Hayes,
That's right.
one arm Brian.
Yeah. Everybody know that.
Everybody knew wrong arm Brian.
Wrong arm, Brian?
What, wrong arm or one arm? I don't know.
Both.
So yeah, you those different aviation careers you had. No, you wanted to go fly in Alaska, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just love the outdoors and I love, hunting, fishing, and just everything outdoors. So
Yeah.
the original plans before I had kids was to go to Alaska and do like outward bound
Bush.
hiking, guiding, and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah, for kids and for
sounds-
at-risk kids and stuff like that.
yeah.
And so I went and got some, wilderness first responder certification and other stuff. And I was hiking. I had hiked a lot of the Appalachian Trail already and stuff, and had all this planned out. And then me and my wife had our first, she got pregnant for our first kid. So that changed the plans. We came home. Then I decided, all right, what I'm going to do. And got back into construction, which I knew that's what when I left, that's what I was doing. And then I said, well, you know what, I ain't doing this forever. So move on to, let's try aviation. That's when I met you. You looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh, this guy here.
Yeah.
Hang on.
yeah. So then over in New Iberia, went through that process. 4.5, told them I wanted to be there. Walked in the door. They did the same thing, looked at me the same way.
Yeah.
Rock and Al, and I said, look, I'll be here for 4 to 6 years. I want to get my license and become a pilot. And they're like, all right, well, we need a guy. You're hired, blah, blah, blah. And 4.5 years later, and then met the fish spotters. And so, yeah, originally I wanted to go to Alaska. That was the plan. And but I met the fish spotters and took the job. I figured, man.
So that kind of changed your, meeting those guys. It just kind of changed your mind.
Yeah,
on-
well, because I figured I'm like, how much they fly in a season? It's a seasonal job. They fly a lot, 800 plus, hours in a season. Depends on the season. Sometimes a little less.
6 month season, right?
6.5 months. Yeah. I said, man, that's gonna be a good time building. Go do that. And honestly, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I'm home every night, off every weekend.
How long you been doing it?
This is my 8th season.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, but y'all move along y'all along the Louisiana coast, or how far do y'all go?
We can't go no more than 25 miles out, but we
Okay.
do fish. Now there's new regulations that's added. So we're like a mile off the beach in some areas. In some areas we have to be 3 miles off the beach, but mostly a mile off the beach to within that to 25 miles. The boats, for some reason, I don't know the exact reason, but they can't fish after 25 miles.
Oh, okay. What's the job then? Y'all just what do y'all do?
My job is I go out there and I look for the fish and I find schools of fish. When I do, I call our boats, depending on how many boats this area of fish can handle. I might call all of them, call a couple of them, etc.
So you're not assigned to one boat.
No, I'm assigned to all of them.
Oh, okay.
All of our boats out of Abbeville are in a coastal.
Yeah, okay.
Are you talk? What, I don't know the word. Are you phoning down the answers, or are they looking up and seeing?
He's got a what do you call that phone?
Yeah, rotary phone. We got a rotary phone in the plane.
In the plane, and you
And,
just
yeah.
30 minutes later, we get
Is
them
it
on the
red
phone.
like the bat phone?
Yeah. It's red.
It's
It's
just
important information.
You don't dial anything. You just pick it up, and
Yeah,
it's there.
That's
right.
right. There is a rotary, but we don't have to get to use it, unfortunately.
It's just a tin
So-
can and a string. That's all.
Yeah, so when I'm bored, I just kind of twirl it around.
There you go.
No, we have what we call a FM radio, and it's a radio for the boats. It's from us to the boats, and it's got secure channels, so other competitors can't.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the competitors can't
I
hear.
imagine it being like a CB radio, like in 18-wheeler or something,
It very much is. It used
Okay.
to be a handheld, actually had a mic. So we'd be
Okay.
flying with our headset and our regular mic like aircraft for the
Yeah.
aviation part. And then we would pick up the mic to set and fly and set the boats while we, because we don't just say, hey, boat, there's the fish, right?
Yeah.
We actually set the boats on the fish,
Well, you got Latin long, or how do you? How do you know?
Well,
exactly?
we have markers out there. We do lat and long sometimes, but
left, straight. Stop.
Starboard. We use so
no,
starboard.
you went too far.
We do, but we don't say left. So left is port and right is starboard. Speed up, slow down. So
that's kind of cool.
It's so we use the naval terms or whatever, marine terms, and I call them. And if I like the place to fish, I have to make that judgment whether it's going to be worth it or not, because the boats could be, they could be 20 hours away. And that's a big deal.
Cool.
And they could be 10 hours away. They could be 5 hours away.
And then the fish, I would think they'd move.
They change. So that's the thing, is like they could be in fish, and you got to make a judgment. You got to look at the fish where you're at, and you got to think, are we about to run out? Are these fish about to spread out and we're not going to be fishing anymore? And you can, after doing it for so long, you start to get a really good judgment of it. And so we'll look, and this place is we're about to end here, so we'll start looking. A couple guys will start looking. If we find a place, depending on how far it is, we'll go there. We call the boats.
So they'll school up in one spot. So you're just trying to figure out if they're going to stay in that bunch or just.
And everything changes. Tide changes, wind changes. They'll change. So they schools. We look for color, which is typically like a purple color when they're real schooled up real tight. Or we'll look for whips on certain days. Color's easy to see depending on the color. Some color's pretty hard to see. It can be very light and it kind of blends with the water, so you got to kind of see it as only at a certain angle. So we're doing a circle because we're in a fixed wing aircraft, 182s and 172 RGs, so you might only actually see the fish on one part of your turn. And so you just have to make a couple circles, make that judgment, call the boats, and then once they get there, there's times where they travel 4 hours, 5 hours or more, and then all the fish just are not there, and then they turn back around and we go back to where we came from.
So are you circling that area until the boat gets there? Like you're just keeping track of the fish? And
it depends if we're around competitors or not. We don't want them to see that, because then they will come, right? And they know. So when we fish around other competitors, we're looking for the same thing. We're like, okay, so we have to be very careful about it depending on who's around. We've been doing a lot more competitive fishing the last couple seasons. They've been coming over, or we've been going over there, and which is fun. I think it's more challenging.
I feel like y'all would be dogfighting and stuff. Like,
well, we do with the boats in a way. We do with the boats in a way. Yeah, there's cutting off and hurrying up and getting to a place of fish and stuff like that.
Is it just like giant cast net?
It's a Persane net. So it's a net. So we have a steamer, which is a ship. It's like a 180-foot long vessel, and on the back they have two 40-foot long vessels, and each of them hold half the net, which is called a Persane net, and it has a lead weight and rings on the bottom. And what happens is so we use our steamer to place a fish. If you can imagine the steamer here, the place a fish in the middle, and then we drop off our purse boats and we go around and we start herding the fish, basically. And I'm doing that from the air by saying starboard port, speed up, slow down, yada, yada, yada. There are occasions where the boats can see the fish better than us. I would say that's maybe, depending on the boat, and maybe 20 to 30% of the time out of the whole season. I'd say 70% of the time we're setting the boats as spotters. And so anyways, we're herding the fish up, and then all the conditions are all different, just depending on the time of the year. But the best time is when we can get those fish to tighten up and they start pushing up. And they're a solid, strong place of fish. And then that's typically the middle of the season when it's real hot and the schools start getting real thick. And then once that happens, we'll say, let them go. And then what happens is, so they open up and the two boats go apart. And as they go apart, they're dropping the net. And they go around. And then when they get about, depending on the depth of the water, when they get roughly halfway out or whatever, we'll ring the steamer up and start trying to chase the fish back into the net, because they will run from our boats. And as the season goes on, the fish, it's like they get used to the sound of the boats, so they're harder to catch.
That's crazy. They learn it.
They do. We catch all the dumb ones, the smart ones go on,
That's right.
So
Darwin.
Yes, all right, Darwin. So anyways, we get halfway around, whatever, they chase them back in the net. When they close up, they drop a tom, which is about I think it's a 1,200 pound, it's a lead weight, and it cinches the bottom of the net. Once that happens, as a spotter, I go grab another boat. Now it's all on the crew to save the fish and do everything, get the net back, pump the fish out. They have a hose that's gauged, that has a cage over it, and it's gauged just for the pogie. And what's really cool is that Persane fishing is the most sustainable commercial fishing out there, because most of the time you can roll out the bycatch. So if there is bycatch, and typically that's what we do too. We don't, the captains, nobody wants bycatch because, and you could typically see it, which is anything obviously we don't want, but we could typically see it, and we'll actually go set somewhere else if there's too much trash fish in the pogey fish, because it's just more work for them. It just takes them longer to get their net back, and they're all competing against each other in a sense, so they have to hurry. They need to pump, get the net back, and then catch again. That's how they get paid off of what they catch only.
So what do they do? Well, they pull the fish into the boat and then...
Yeah, so they get the net back. They suck the pogey out with a hose, and then they'll roll the bycatch out. Typically, majority of the time, the bycatch they just swim away, right?
Yeah.
Wait, so how do they filter it?
They have a screen on the hose. I mean, the hose is massive. I think it's like 16 inches or something, or 18 inches.
So the size of the pogey can only pass through that screen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the pogey, there are a time in the year where you get some really big pogey. It's rare, but you get like 10 inches or something like that. But most of them are around 6 inches throughout the year.
Yeah.
And so it's not a big fish. And compared to if you have some bycatch, like...
Those are usually bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Much bigger fish, right? So, yeah. And then we do that, and I go on to the next boat. And but I had a concern when I first started. I was wondering. I was like, I wonder how sustainable this is. And unfortunately, it's very sustainable. We're not out there skimming the bottom, tearing the floor up, sucking up, just catching everything and then pulling it up on the deck, and it's all dying, and then pushing the bycatch out that's dead and keeping it doesn't work like that. A lot of people don't realize that, but that aspect of it. Anyhow, so
and I'm assuming there's no shortage of pogey.
No. It's amazing how much pogey are out there, and there's only, I think, between the two companies that are in the Gulf, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's only 32 boats.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've seen fish so thick that, like, for example, 2 seasons ago, we were fishing almost in Texas, and actually the boats were, most of them were kind of up, and I just scouted to south of Houma, and they had this place of fish that was about 3 miles long, and I mean, it had some gaps in it, but it was about a quarter of a mile thick, and it was about a half mile off the beach, and it was black, and there was floaters behind it because the fish were so thick that it was taking oxygen out the water, and some of them were killing themselves.
Oh, really?
That's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah, and people don't, I mean, you don't really get to see that.
Yeah,
no,
you don't see that.
I mean, you can see that out there. I've seen guys out there fishing, and they're running their boat through the water, and all of a sudden they run through a place like that, and they probably freak out if they don't know, because the fish start blowing up out of the water. And it's just, that's around like August time, July, August, I mean, the fish just get so thick. And I mean, it's amazing what you'll see. Massive schools of redfish. I didn't know they had that many redfish out there, but you look at these massive schools of redfish. I mean, I'm talking, a 10, 20 acre school of fish, and just big bull reds coming in. And
so you're saying if you ever want to go red fishing, call up Brian and he'll tell
Brian to ask him where the redfish at.
It's funny. Sometimes I watch these guys. I'll see them on the front of their boat, and all the fish are on the back of their boat.
Those
idiots. Look at this. Anyways, so it's fun. It's interesting.
How much fish can a boat carry? Like, when do they head back to the dock?
I think a boat fully loaded can handle around 1.6 million pogey.
Okay, so they can catch some and then move on to another spot before they head back to the dock. It's not just one. Yeah.
Yeah. And
1.6 million?
Yeah, pogey fish. Yeah,
That's typically. A huge boat. That's a huge boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big boat. Typically they're out there for the whole week though.
Okay.
It's rare that there's times where we fill up a boat in a day or two, and then, you know what I mean?
Oh, for a whole week without dumping it.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They'll typically go, majority of the season, it takes a whole week to fill the boat up. But there are, in the peak of the season, where we do catch a lot quick, But in that time, that's what I'm saying. I've seen fish from Texas to Fouchon.
So say
off
the
and
boats,
on, just trillions of fish,
So say
or
they
billions
go,
of fish, whatever, I don't know.
The boats don't typically go in all the same time, because, I mean, y'all don't have a job then if they go in all the same time.
Sometimes they do.
Okay.
Sometimes they get paid, off of what they catch.
Yeah.
But y'all work for the same company.
Correct. The term is playing the plant. And what it is they might not fill up all the way, because they know that if they go in there, they're going to get stuck at the plant for X amount of hours.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere from 4 hours to anywhere, and that's not counting travel time, right?
Yeah.
It depends on where you are. Travel time could be anything from 3 hours to 20 hours or 10 hours, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, if they're 20 hours away, they're trying to fill up. They're not going to play the plant. But they go in and they try to unload, even if they're not full, because they know that a couple other boats might get ahead of them and it might put them back. You see?
Okay.
So they can get in, unload, and get back out and technically catch more fish in the grand scheme of things. You know, I don't know if that really, how well that works on the numbers, but that's how, you know, that's not our choice. That's how they do it. They choose to do it sometimes.
But y'all get paid however much they catch.
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah. And
so you might want them to do that.
So you would hope they do.
Because so you could get paid more.
I mean, I feel the way, I don't know that side of things. I don't do that down there. But from up there, if I had the way I see it is like, let's just fill up everything.
We're here.
Like, fill the boats. And the fish, because this is the thing, fish are unpredictable. That's why it's called fishing, not catching. I mean, literally, you might have amazing day right now, and then this afternoon, there's no fish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So by the time they come back, it's like, well, should have stayed.
And you can have a pretty good judgment on when the fish are that heavy, if they're going to stay showing or not, because when they're that thick, it's really hard for them to just disappear, but it does happen. It happened last year.
Y'all done for the day? I mean, if y'all go, I mean, when do y'all?
No, we scout.
Y'all just scouting for some more
and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Till nighttime. Till sunset.
Till dark. Yeah. So from dark to dark.
For the whole season, is there an amount that y'all are trying to hit? Or do y'all just keep going till the end of the season, getting as much as possible?
There's an amount that is needed, yes, for the company to, you know, I guess profit or make hit minimum, and then there's a profit, and then profit, etc. I don't know what that number is.
But the more excess, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no like,
no
we
quota.
Can't handle more than...
No, but what happens is that's a kind of a, you know, that what happens is the plant gets choked up sometimes. So they put us on limits. And
so there is a limit. That's what
there is limits when the fish start getting real thick or the plant starts getting choked up. They'll put us on limits. So when a boat can hold maybe 1,600, we'll only hold 1 million. You know, they'll cut us down to 1 million, which it's a bummer because it affects the pay. You know, it affects the fish catch, but that's just part of the industry, you know.
Yeah.
So that'll happen. We want the plant to be smooth operating all the time because then we can catch more fish, but that's just not the way it works, unfortunately. You know, when it gets hot, you know, those boats have to keep the fish cool, and if the fish get too hot, then they'll get too soft, and it messes up the process in the plant, and that could happen. And so then they'll limit how many boats can come in at a time, and they'll stagger the boats, and it's to try to keep it more fluid, you know.
Gotcha.
It gets complicated. So in those times, I just go out there and I say, you know what, I'm glad for this job, and I'm just flying out here catching fish or looking for the next place, you know.
So normally, I mean, a normal day for you is get up in the morning, y'all take off, and you go out. Do y'all scout first, or do y'all just like, do y'all have an area? Oh, we know last night or yesterday.
Both.
Yeah,
so both. So
so the boats start moving before y'all say anything.
Depends.
Okay.
Yes, the time
All of the above.
Yes, that's right. It depends on the time of the year. So yeah, like the beginning of the season, we're going to beach out. Boats are going to be around the mud hole, just middling around. Your mud hole's, you know, straight south of here. But anyways, just middling around. It's kind of like the harboring area, so to speak. They'll just maybe be looking on their own and probably won't see a whole lot of fish. And then, you know, the first week. And so we're just scouting, right? Second week, you know, we might see a couple places of whips, go try it. You know, it may not be much. You know, might be some real small sets, nothing great to, you know, get excited about. And then, you know, it just slowly starts picking up. And as it gets to the middle of the season, when the fish get really thick, it's pretty easy. Like, we'll take off and say, all right, there was thick fish over there yesterday. They're probably going to be there today. So we'll beach out, we'll take off and go straight there. And the boats will stay in that area overnight, you know, if they didn't have to come in to unload. So yeah, they'll stay in that area, you know, wherever that area might be, off of south of Marsh Island, whatever. And then they'll just drop their anchor that night there, and next morning we'll be there to see what fish are showing, and then we'll start catching them if they do show. And sometimes they're thick there the day before, and the next day they're gone, you know.
Gotcha. So usually y'all fly out to where the boats are first and then go from there.
That's right. We always fly to where the boats are typically, unless
I thought they came back every night.
No, they stay out all
I
week.
see.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless they get full. Then they'll come back, or close to full, whatever. Then they'll come back. The boats will go back in. Even if that's the case, we're still looking for the next place to
Right.
fish. And typically, they're not going to all go in at the same time. I fish 8 boats. We have 8 boats,
Okay.
and we do have what they call run boats, which are 2 boats that don't fish. They just take fish from the other boats and bring them in, so it helps them to stay out a little longer.
Yeah.
Typically, it's always staggered. So there's always some boats out there that need to fish, and so we will go straight to them, or typically it depends on how far away. So like we got guys that fly out of Lake Charles, we got guys that fly out of Abbeville, we got guys that fly out of Houma, we got guys that fly out all along the coast, right? And wherever the boats are, if the boats are far away from those guys, you still got to look out your area. So you may not go directly to the boat at that point in time. You might just go directly to that area south of you where you think there might be some fish. Check it out. If there is, you tell on the radio. If there isn't, you tell them that too, and then you end up at the boats eventually.
But yeah, your typical days, you get there in the morning, y'all take off, you fly for about 4 hours, either doing scouting or helping the boats fish.
Yeah, we do double shifts, 2 shifts. So we have, and it rotates every week. So the early shift, late shift, and typically your first shift is 4 hours. You're out there, so you roughly, depends on how far you are, it could be 4 to 5 hours of flying, because the travel, that's not counting travel time.
Yeah.
So then we fly the first shift, and then the other guys relieve us. We come back, so we're typically on the ground for their whole shift, which their shift is typically the same time frame. And
Is it a certain time, or is it like sunrise to 4 hours later?
yeah, we got to be over the boats 30 minutes before sunrise.
So it's not like every morning 6 o'clock.
Correct.
It's sunrise.
Yeah,
Okay.
and as the season days get longer, you're out there longer.
Gotcha.
So that's the time where we're flying. We can end up flying 10 hours in a day. So yeah, and then we do that through the season. At the end of the season, it's nice because the days get real short. So like if you're on late shift, you take off, you fly your whole shift, 4.5 hours or so, and then the evening you might only fly 2.5 hours because the sun, and vice versa for the morning. The morning is real short, 2.5 hours, and then your second shift of the morning shift is 4 hours. So it gets shorter in the beginning, and the end is a shorter days, but I mean, and then in the middle it's the long days. So we enjoy those shorter days because it's a lot of flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many hours do you get in a year or 6 months?
It depends on the weather.
Yeah.
Last year was on the lower end, and it was around 700. I've been close to 900 in a season. Yeah. So
In 6 months, not in a year.
6 months, 2 weeks. Yeah.
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 So is there a reason that it's only 6 months? Like what's
Fishing season.
okay?
It's like a hunting season or a fishing season, so they put a cap on it because you got to let the fish.
Oh, it's a
respawn.
legal thing. It's not like the fish are not there, or they go
Correct.
go somewhere, not
They go
hibernate.
home.
Yeah, they migrate or whatever.
Right.
you know?
South for the winter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
and
go to South
and
America. Or
I don't
whatever.
fly out there in the winter. There's a couple guys that have to exercise airplanes in the winter, and I've heard that they'll go out just to look, and they've seen schools in the wintertime.
Okay.
But yeah, it's out of season, just like any other hunting and fishing season. And it's to help the fish, it's to let them repopulate, grow, spawn, do the thing. I don't know the whole process really. I think there's a lot of babies in the wintertime,
Okay.
and hatching and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I know they spawn in September time. But anyway, so yeah, that's to keep it balanced, checks and balances, so to speak.
Yeah.
Our nets are gauged, so if they have babies, because there is babies out there, and we can tell the difference between babies, and you don't want to set on babies. I mean, for all the reasons, right? You don't want to set on.
So you don't want to sit on babies?
set
Oh, okay.
set on babies.
Set
For
on
all the
babies.
reasons.
Yeah.
Don't sit
Yeah,
on
you don't want to set on babies because you don't want to mess up. You don't want to catch babies, and you don't want to mess up.
Well, they're
next
probably
year's.
not the right size
That's
anyway.
right.
Like you're not
That's
gonna
right.
get
You don't
much
want to
meat.
mess up next year's, fish.
Yeah.
But our nets are gauged to where babies can swim through them.
Okay.
So if there is babies mixed up into the bigger school of fish, the babies swim through.
Okay.
They typically will swim through the net. Obviously there's always that threshold where there's the size that fits directly in the hole and
They
gets
get
stuck.
Yeah.
And that's really bad because you could actually sink boats like that if you
what?
set on too big of a place and it has too many babies in
Too
there.
much drag.
Yeah, it's too much weight and it gets stuck in the nets and it's really hard for them to pull them up. When I first started, I had to go on a boat for a little while, and
Is that like a? This is the
So
worst
rite of
comparison.
passage kind of
I was
thing.
gonna say, is that like getting tased before you can use a taser?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
what happens is like if that happens, if they get stuck in there, dude, and they pile that net up in the back of the boat, it's nothing but maggots and flies, and because they rot and it stinks. But anyways, so yeah, so typically
That's what you got to learn.
But anyway.
yeah. So typically you don't. I mean, that's extremely rare that happens.
Yeah.
But it's part of the industry, like anything else. Things do happen that go wrong sometimes.
But the one time you were on the boat, it happened.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I wasn't, to be fair, I wasn't on the purse boat, but
yeah,
I did see the steam coming off of them, because they just ferment, you know, and it's bad.
No, thank you.
Yeah. It's bad. Yeah. I just fly. The plant.
I just fly airplanes. The
plant's potent too, because they just cook, right? They're cooking the fish, like they're cooking fish, and it's
like
gone.
are they actually cooking, or is it so hot they're cooking?
No, in the plant they're actually cooking the fish. So what our product is the omega oils. And so that's our main product.
That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so we're extracting the omega oils out of the fish, and it's used for anything from like omega supplements to I think they even use it in makeups and things like that. Ooh. But they use it in industrial lubricants, which I was shocked to hear.
Yeah.
And I met a guy that worked at a massive, I think it was an air conditioner factory. They built AC units or whatever. And he said that whole plant was run on a fish oil. All the lubricants for everything in there was run on was all fish oil. And what it would do is, I'm like, did it have a smell? And he said, you never smell it except for the 2 weeks they'd shut the plant down to do maintenance, because the whole time it's running, that oil's running, it's running through filters, and it doesn't smell. But when they shut the plant down for 2 weeks, they stopped running it through the filtration. He said the whole plant smells like fish, like really strong. Yeah. And I know our plant, if it smells anything like our plant when they're cooking, my goodness, it's
stay away.
Well, do they it's hopefully it's out in the middle of nowhere.
It is. It's in the middle of the marsh.
Okay.
But those people that live around there, I've talked to them, like, how do you handle this? And they're like,
what you talking about?
They're like, you just get used to it. And you don't even, it ain't that bad anymore. I drove my truck there years ago. I had to go in late October and they were cooking for something, and I was there for like 45 minutes. I literally parked my truck in the parking lot. I walked from my truck to the building. I swear, I'm like, my eyes were like watering, and I go inside. That's when I asked her, like, how do y'all handle that smell, whatever. So I leave. The next day, my wife goes outside. She's like, Brian, it smells like fish outside. I'm like, what?
Your whole truck smelled like
truck smelled like fish. The outside of my truck smelled like fish. I went and I smelled my truck. I'm like, yep, that's the Poke plant.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's just that potent. Some people get older vehicles just to drive to the plant so they doesn't ruin their
park them a mile away from their house.
Yeah.
What do they do with the rest of the fish?
The byproduct is fish meal.
So every part of the fish is used.
Yeah. So the byproduct's a fish meal, and it goes to anything like feeds and dog foods. And I know one of the customers used to be Blue Buffalo dog food, so high quality dog food and stuff. It's a high quality product,
That's really cool.
We have like gold standard certifications for sustainable fishing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
heck yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting part of aviation that most people don't know about.
Oh, I forgot. We're talking about aviation.
Yeah. So we didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know this. I mean, I've been living here my whole life in this area, and I didn't even know the Poke plant existed. Matter of fact, when I was working in New Iberia at the airport, you get a southwest wind, I would smell some
really?
stench. Remember? I don't know if you remember, every once in a while we get a southwest wind when it was cooler around October, because that smell carries when it's cooler. And I mean, that's far away.
Yeah.
And we would smell it, and we'd have that
it's
stench.
like a cat food
kind
of
smell. It's not as strong over there, but you kind of get a little whiff of like some fishy cat foody kind of smell. And we'd always wonder what that was. And so somebody told me, they're putting shrimp in the fields or whatever. No, it's the plant.
Putting shrimp in the fields.
Yeah, shrimp peeling.
That's strong. So is it in Abbeville, or is it? I mean, you said in the marsh,
city.
Intercoastal City.
That's one of the plants. There's multiple plants. So there's a plant in Intercoastal City. There's a plant in Empire, which is south of New Orleans, and then there's another plant around Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Okay.
So there's just 3 plants on the Gulf. There used to be one in Lake Charles. They closed that down 15 years ago or so.
But that's the only one y'all go to.
Just depends.
Okay, so it's not like y'all's company owns that plant only. Or
Right. Well, they're competitors, and there's a competitor plant too that's south of New Orleans. So
Okay.
we have 2, and they have 1.
gotcha. That's
And yeah, so it depends on where we're fishing. Sometimes you can be close to the east plant, you know. Sometimes you might be close to the west plant, or sometimes if it's slow over there, some of those boats come this way.
I don't know if you answered, but how far west and how far east do y'all normally go?
I've been fished as far as Sabine, Texas.
Okay.
Like, so the Sabine River in Texas. A little bit actually west of that, few miles or so.
So y'all don't go to Houston. Houston's too far.
Yeah. Like south of Houston, like Galveston. No, I've heard they did back in the day. You know, I haven't seen boats go that far. If there's absolutely nothing going on, we'll take a flight down there. We do fly down there and look around up to about Galveston, and just just to look. I guess if it was absolutely a bad season and we were really struggling and the fish were only showing over there, we would go. We have licenses for Texas and stuff, and in certain areas, and their rules are different there. So, and then east wise, I've fished all the way in, I think they call it Chandelier Sound, which is basically Mississippi and Louisiana border.
Okay.
And that's very rare. I've only been there once.
So y'all stay mainly in Louisiana.
Yes, mainly in Louisiana. So typically an average time frame, an average area is going to be west of Lake Charles, a ways, just depends. Holly Beach, west of that a little bit, and then all the way to Fouchon.
Okay.
That's going to be the majority of the season will be in those areas.
Yeah.
And then we have other guys that are covering, the middle, the east of that, and then other sections east of that. So it's all covered. It's just, it's all spread out,
It's all in the Gulf.
It's all in the Gulf, yeah. We only fish in the Gulf.
It's the Gulf of America.
Gulf of America.
I was like, has the name change affected y'all at all?
That's right. Had the fish
when I
decided
beach out,
to
it
leave.
will. Yeah, when I beach out, it will.
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger, cockier fish, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I can't wait to beach out this year, because we have different frequencies, and we have a safety frequency, which is us and the helicopters, because we have to talk to the helicopters, right?
Yeah.
All the oil field helicopters. And so we typically fly what we call the hard altitudes, anywhere from 500, 1,000, 15, 2,000, 25, etc., going up. And then the helicopters typically will fly in between that. If we're setting a boat in what they call it like a beehive sometimes, is where if all the boats in one area and you got 7 spotters or 5 spotters all setting all the boats in one area, we're all stacked up 500 foot apart, spiraling like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then the helicopters, a lot of them will go around that, but some of them come right through it. And so as long as they're 250 foot separation, and they're holding that altitude, and they've communicated, and we're like, all right, this is where I'm at, and then this is where I'm at, and then it's fine. Yeah. And we keep eyes, and we have ADSB in and out. So we all see each other all the time on that. Plus we're obviously always looking. My job is outside the aircraft, that's my main job. I'm always looking outside the aircraft. So flying is all by seat of the pants, old school flying, you're flying, looking outside. You're doing turns around a point, doing 100 knots, 120 knots, whatever, and just, looking outside constantly. And so we have that safety frequency that we talk to the aircrafts, the helicopters with. We have our frequency that we talk to the spotters with. And then we have the FM, which is going to be for the boats, and which is now, I said earlier, was on a mic, handheld mic, but now it is on our microphone, on our headset. So it's much nicer. You just press the button. We just switch it on the panel. Yeah. And then there is a boat or two that we use CBs with, and the competitor uses CBs still for their boats. So
does anybody ever try to find?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah. I find the channels, and I write them all down, and if I'm fishing around them, I definitely scan the CB channel.
Yes.
So yeah, see what they're doing.
It's like a game. It's like all a game.
It is. It's like a sport. Yeah. And they all recruit like boats and stuff. They recruit guys from other boats to get better, make their crews better, and all this stuff.
It's literally, so it's like a sport, different sports teams.
Yeah. It's interesting.
That's crazy.
It's very competitive.
Yeah.
It's very competitive. Yeah. My first 5 seasons maybe, I didn't really fish around competitors. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And then we started kind of going over there by them, and then they were like, oh, okay, all right. So
y'all want to come over in our territory, huh?
That's exactly what it's like.
Now the last 3 seasons, they are solid coming in our area all the time. So now that's just the way it is.
Just swap.
It's just the way it is. Sometimes it's funny. It's
Yeah.
funny that happens, dude. We will leave. Our boats will go all the way over there by where their plan is, and they'll come all the way over here by us, and we're like,
We should have just stayed.
Yeah.
what are we doing?
What are we doing here?
What's
What are we
going on?
doing?
Really? And so we clown, be like, hey, I'll fish your boats today. You fish mine today. Yeah. You know? But it really is fun fishing around them.
Yeah.
You know, like when we're all in the same area. I mean, it
So
just
it's not like y'all hate each other.
No,
Yeah.
no, we all get up. Shoot, I mean, they'll land, dude, and we go to lunch together.
Yeah, okay,
You
cool.
know what I mean? Yeah, I like them. I like everybody. I mean, I'm not saying everybody gets along, but most of us all get along.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like that. I mean, but it's out there. It's fun, camaraderie, you know, and there's competitive. We're like, hey, I mean, that's how we make money, and we're going to catch fish.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like there's enough fish to go around, kind of thing.
oh, there's plenty of fish. There used to be, apparently, I'm going to botch this a little because this was way before my time, and I've only heard stories, but apparently there used to be like 10 to 15 plants on the coast, all along the coast,
Oh,
different
really?
areas from Texas to Mississippi. Yeah. Back in the day. And there were spotters everywhere and boats, a lot like more boats than there are now. So, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, no, there's plenty of fish because back in the day, it used to sustain what they had.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of those companies got bought out by the bigger company that grew and got bigger and bought out. And so now you're down to 2 companies out there.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, it's fun, you know, especially fishing around those guys. You know, it's challenging, and because you're not trying to show them what fish you have and what your areas are, so you're like being sneaky about it and like
Yeah, you're hiding your place.
yeah, and it's really fun when
Yeah.
it's really fun when they got boats right there and you can see their spotters looking, and then
Yeah.
your boat just got done pumping and you pick them up and you drop them off and you go catch a place of fish right next to their boat. They didn't even know. I say
shit.
right next, but very close proximity of their boat, and they've been looking the whole time, and you make a nice set next to their boats, and that's fun, and it
Yeah.
happens both ways. They get us, we get them.
Yeah.
You know, it's just part of
It's
it.
competition.
Yeah. So,
Fun.
but at the end of the day, you know, get along with everybody, shake hands, laugh, clown. Hey, you didn't see that place. I got you know. So
Is this like the fish spot and part of aviation? Is it in other states too? I mean, do you know?
East Coast? Yeah, they have it on the East
Okay.
Coast. I think they don't have it. I don't think they go into Alabama, and if they do go, I don't think they go into Alabama all the way to the east in the Gulf of America. I don't think they go
Yeah,
into
America.
I don't think they go into Alabama. If I'm not mistaken, then maybe there's certain times they can go into Alabama. There's
Yeah.
different restrictions there. I know they don't go into Florida. I've heard different things that Florida was thinking about opening up a season there.
Yeah.
Go into Texas, and then on the East Coast, there's a company that's our company's. It's one of the golf companies here that also has a company on the East Coast in Virginia.
Okay.
And they fish. I don't know the topography there that well, but I mean they fish everywhere from I think like North Carolina all the way up to around New York.
Okay.
Yeah, New Jersey and
Yeah.
stuff like that. They just fish all along there, and there's only one plant that does it there for Omega for the oils,
Yeah.
but they have a lot more companies there, smaller companies that do it for the bait purpose.
Oh.
So a pogie fish is also used for crawfishing and crabbing purposes, right? They catch them, they leave them whole. They don't process them in any fashion, and then they freeze them, package them, and they sell them to all these other commercial fishermen.
Yeah.
And for bait purposes, we don't do that. But on the East Coast, there's a lot more smaller companies that do that as well. And then there's also they do that as well in Alaska. So they have pogie fishing in Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a completely different thing. From what I understand, I talked to a guy that works on a boat, one of the captain's sons, and he went up there just to try it out and see what it was like, because he's actually in college to get like his captain's licenses and
Yeah.
stuff for big tankers and everything. He went up there and fished with him for a season, and he said it was completely different. I think it was the pogie, but anyways, at least he was around it. But he said it was completely different. He said that basically the spotters go out there, they find the fish, and they literally just tell the boats about the fish, and then give the coordinates to their boats, and then they leave because they've had issues in the past. It's too dangerous. The flying is too dangerous, where they I guess there's too many planes or something, and they'll have incidents of, I guess, I don't know if they've had mid-air collisions or not, but stuff
Something
like close
like that,
calls
yeah.
and stuff like that, to where they will only tell the boats where it's at, and then the boats go out there, and their season's much shorter, et cetera, et cetera. The boats go out there, and then the boats are responsible to catch the fish and do everything themselves. Okay. Whereas here in the Gulf and on the East Coast, it's completely different. East Coast is different than here. We are way more hands-on here, and our fish are a lot wilder and harder to catch and look a lot different. On the East Coast, it's just massive places of color. I say massive. They're not even massive. From what I heard, there could be like a small place, a dot of color, and the size of, half of a steamer, and it'll be, 500,000 fish, because it's the way they shape under the water, and it's a much deeper water they're fishing in. We fish in shallow water. Typically, our water here is like 20 feet deep, right? Where over there, it might be 50 feet deep. So the fish, the way they shape up and school up, you can't see all of them. Here, you can see more of them, and they're a lot wilder and faster here. Over there, they don't even use the steamers. The fish are working off or the fish are working in. They get in front of the fish. They open the boats up. They drop half the net. They slow the boats up. They just sit and kind of wait and allow the fish to just keep coming into the net, and then they go around. It's a much easier.
Yeah, that
sounds like a much easier way to fish, and I haven't experienced it. But whereas we are much more hands-on, we are much more constantly trying to hurry the fish. The fish are trying to run in. Sometimes the fish spread 3 different ways.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's much more engaging, and here, but it keeps it exciting.
Sounds fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. That's why I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody's interested in fish spotting, how could they get a job doing it?
It depends. Typically, I know that I know it's changed a couple times, but they typically go to, and they have to work on a boat first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And if they have their licenses already, I don't know 100% if they do have to work on the boat or not. I know some cases they still do, and some cases they don't. I think it just depends.
Yeah, because you didn't
there's
work
only
on a boat.
No, I didn't work on a boat.
Okay.
But I was technically one of the last ones, to my knowledge. They have 2 companies in the Gulf, and they both have training programs. If you don't have your licenses too, and you would basically apply to them, you'd work on a boat for a few seasons, and if you got selected to get into the spotter program, if there was available spots and you got selected, and I think they're pretty upfront with you about that, then they go through a training program. The training program's actually pretty intense, because you get all 3 licenses in 5.5 months.
Golly, it's like going to ATP.
Yeah.
Worse than ATP, because I think they do it in 9 months.
Yeah, I don't know.
7 months.
But I confirmed that yesterday, that you do all your licenses, you get your private instrument commercial in that short of a time frame.
Wow.
Now, do you have to do it through them to get that job?
No, I didn't. I did my own. And that's why I was saying you can go apply with your licenses.
Gotcha. How do you find that out? Like if somebody wants to go right now, how do you find out if you need to work?
You have to go talk to them.
Like physically?
Yeah. Call them up and go apply and talk to them about the position. And
physically? What kind of question is it?
Yeah.
Physically walk to the place.
5 miles up here both ways.
You have to talk, have to talk to a human?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the idea is that they want people. One company wants people on the boat is because the fishing side of it. Okay, so once flying is its own thing, right? And learning. The fishing side is a whole nother thing, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it was very challenging. There's a whole lingo. There's a trust you got to gain, you got to get from the captains. I mean, you got to think about these boats and these captains, right? This is their everyday life. They're completely relying on you at some points in times of most of the season. They don't want a new guy that doesn't know what they're doing practicing with their livelihood.
Yeah.
So that's tough. Yeah. And I went through that, and you get chewed out and you get told stuff, and they tell stuff to the manager, and whatever, they complain, and there's a lot of complaining. You just got to suck it up, and you got to go through that stuff, and they will drop you, and they will call you out on the radio, and everybody hears it, and they will tell you stuff, and and it happens to everyone essentially. It's gotten better over the years since I've been there, but you also understand those guys they're not in aviation. They don't care nothing about it, and they have they're multi-generation fishermen, 4 or 5 year generation fishermen. That's their lives, and that's how they live. And they like, hey, bro, I don't want nothing to do with you. Get me somebody that can set me some fish, and they ain't afraid to tell you. So it's hard to break. So what happens is when you and then so like for me, I like the idea of getting on the boat because you get to meet everybody, right? Mm-hmm. People like me that did it my way, the way I got to do it. You don't meet them. at first.
Oh.
You don't even
So
know
you're
them.
just talking to them before you meet them.
Yeah, you don't even know who you are. They don't know what you
Yeah.
look like. They don't know anything. And then let me tell you, you can tell through people's voices if they're confident or not very quickly and very easy, and through the lingo and everything. So there's a separation there. Whereas when you get on the boat and you learn on the boat, you know, you meet the crews, they're more willing, the captains, or they take a liking to you or they don't, whatever. But if they do, they are more willing to work with you and be patient with you.
And I
you
think
know?
that way it becomes less of a job. And you're like, no, we're trying to help each other. We're actually trying to, there's a goal we're trying to reach. Let's do this, you know?
That's right. But when you got somebody that they don't know, they never met, and they know they don't know anything about fishing because it's obvious through your lingo and everything else, then, and it's hard to see the fish. The fish it's not easy to see them. It's a trained thing that you got to train your eyes to see them. Yeah. I'm not saying there's not an easy time to see them. That's true. But majority of the season, they're not easy to see. You're looking for whips and you're looking for very little, you know, signs and it's a lot of just judgment through experience.
The longer you do it, the more you're like, this means fish are here, kind of like.
They're not where that place is all right, that place is even better, you know. And like, for example, you might have a place that whips over here, it's whipping fair, maybe an all right whip, and then you got another place.
Tell me what whips are.
Whips are when the fish nick the water with their tail.
Okay.
A 6-inch fish nicks the water with his tail and it makes a slight splash.
Whips.
That's a whip. That's what we call a whip. So you might have a place of whips right here, muddy water, brown muddy water, shallow, and you know, depending on where we are. Whips here, hard to see. All you got is whips. Over here, you got some whips, and they got a little fresh mud with it, right? Well, I'm going for that, the one with the fresh mud, because they're probably thicker because they're dragging the bottom. If you're seeing them at the top and there's fresh mud bubbling, they're probably at the bottom too. So the place of fish is thicker from the top to the bottom. I'm gonna take my chances there, you know. And you might go set on that; it might be nothing,
right?
You know, you might go set on that one later, next, and it might blow up.
Yeah,
it just.
But from your experience,
it's fishing, not catching.
It's fun.
You know,
it's experience.
Yeah.
So wait, do jobs open up a lot? Because it sounds like if once you have the job, you're staying there for as long as you can.
Most people don't want to get rid of the job. They don't. Most people stay there forever. They They used to tell me when I first heard about it. Some guys that worked at the airports, they knew about the spotters. They've been fueling them for many years, etc. They said you either got to kill somebody or wait for somebody to retire. You know, you got to wait for somebody to retire because they're not letting go of that job. I will say that's not the case necessarily. Most recently, there are people that have been quitting. Yeah. And how I got my job was I met them, and then one day I was doing my commercial in the VTEL Bonanza in Abbeville, the T&Ms, and I saw a guy fueling up his plane, and I knew at the fish spotter fuel pump.
Yeah. And
so I figured he's a fish spotter. I went up to talk to him. He happened to be one of the bosses.
Oh, okay.
And I told him, I said, man, look, I'm getting my commercial in 2 weeks, and I'm interested in looking about a job, you know, looking to fly. And he says, oh, yeah. He talked to me for a little while. He says, I tell you what, keep bugging me. So I did. And then next thing you know, I think it was about a month later, I had the job. You know?
That's awesome.
So, yeah, there was, you never know until you try.
No, very interesting. Very interesting.
It is. It's a unique aviation job.
Yeah.
I think there's only like 20 spotters in the Gulf.
It's one of those things that most people don't know about.
Yeah, I think there's only
20 of them.
I think there's only 20 spotters in the Gulf, roughly around that. Yeah. But it's like anything else. You get tired at the end. At the end of the year, you get tired. You know.
Yeah.
Peeing in buckets.
Yeah, we do. We have what is called a Lil John. It's a red bottle.
Oh yeah, they sell that on Sporties.
Yeah, they suck because they suck because they don't sit upright. They sit at this weird angle, you know.
Oh yeah.
So here I am with one hand flying, you know, peeing with Lil John.
I didn't even think about that. That's crazy.
I've only spilled piss once, you know. So and it wasn't all of it, thank God.
Oh god.
Yeah.
And be sure not to throw it out the window.
Yeah, they used to have a tube in the plane.
That you like to let it out?
Yeah, so they had a tube that would just sat right here and it connected to the back of the plane and it went out of the tail. Mm-hmm. But what happened was the piss was running down the side of the airplane and corroding the aircraft, so that's why they got rid of it.
Wow.
And then when I worked at New Iberia, they told me one time back in the day, if the fish spotter would make them mad, they'd shove mud or block up that hole. And so you'd be pissing and the tube would fill up and then they had to fly around and hold the tube, you know. The best thing is the best thing to carry, and I haven't transferred to one yet, but is a laundry detergent bottle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you're not limited to how much you can pee.
Yeah.
It's got a nice size hole, you know. It stands upright.
Whatever works best for you. Just figure it out.
Yeah. So how we finish?
I don't know. We kind of had a finish.
Okay. If you found a finish, great.
It's going to be with you saying, so how do we finish?
How do we finish?
Like this. Later.
Flight Tales, woo-woo. In a world where you made it this far, that means you listened to the entire episode. And for that, we would just like to say thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it. We would also like to thank today's guest, Brian Hayes, for joining us today and sharing his story. If you have any questions about today's episode or suggestions for future episodes, just leave a comment or message us. If you'd like to check out some fun and educational aviation videos, check out our YouTube channel at Owens Flight Training. Or if you'd like to get more information on becoming a safe, knowledgeable, and confident pilot, just head over to our website, owensflighttraining.com.